Hi, I'm Emma Cowling and I'm on a mission to help more women in tech become authentic leaders. This video is a masterclass on networking and sharing with you some networking tips right from the beginning, understanding what you want to get out of networking and why you even want to do it in the first place, through to once you've been out there and you've made some connections, how do you follow those up? Now, this was designed originally to be part of a workshop, and so there are exercises within it that you can take away and do. You can take them offline and you can come back to it, or you can just go away and practice them. And this video is here for you to come back to whenever you need. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get plenty from it. And if you'd like to join the Authentic Tech Leaders group that it was originally streamed in, then you'll find the link for that in the comments below. So the first thing that I wanted to do is to talk about networking and what networking is, because I think networking, and I find myself saying this about a lot of things, but networking as an idea can feel like a big thing. It's kind of something we should be doing, something we should be out there doing more of, and suddenly it becomes this kind of big thing that we're pressured to do. But actually, at the core, what is networking? Well, it's about getting out there and meeting people, making new friends, making connections, seeing kind of finding out about stuff, finding out about the world and getting new perspectives. That's what networking's there for, and that's what it's all about. And you probably find that you do it all the time. You're always out there kind of connecting with people and speaking to people, and that is an element of networking. So when I take the dog for a walk in the morning, I'm meeting other dog walkers and talking to them and saying hi and discussing with them what it means. We share tips around dogs, so we're networking around dogs. And what tends to happen sometimes is I'll get chatting to them and they'll mention that maybe they're in IT or something, and we'll start talking about what it is that we do. And then my network starts to grow. But I'm not going out there deliberately to network. It's just that networking does tend to happen naturally. Another example of where networking can just happen is when we're out and about, and when we're trying to build connections. So when we're speed dating is a fantastic example of networking, and I've done it, and I've used some of these networking tips that I'm going to share with you there, and they were pretty damn successful, actually. So that's another place where when we're out and about and we're just meeting people, we're making friends, that is networking. And what changes in all of these is what you're trying to get out of it. And so networking for work usually means that you're trying to get something out of it around work and where your work's going. So that's kind of be something I'm going to come back to. But the final thing I just wanted to share around networking was that idea that actually networking doesn't have to be about being an online event, or an event, going along to an event. Networking can also be about sort of sharing and meeting people within a group. So this group, the Authentic Tech Leaders Facebook group, is a chance for you to network and to connect with people, both in this meeting, but also outside of that. There are strands of introductions. I ask people to introduce themselves when they come in. It's a good chance to find out who's in here and who are the people that you'd like to talk to, who would you like to know more about, and a chance to just comment and ask them questions and get to know them a bit better. So networking isn't just about going along to a conference or a specific networking event. It's about just interacting. And so I really wanted to debunk that first and just sort of say, don't get hung up on the idea of networking being about a specific thing. It's just about getting out there and making friends and connecting with people. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Now, the second thing I want to say before I get stuck into the tips is, well, what are the benefits of networking? Why would you network? And for me, networking is all about connecting, getting to know people, getting to know different perspectives, finding out about what's going on in the world, bringing new ideas into the things that I do. And so that's really what networking is all about for me. So So it's about expanding your knowledge, it's about kind of getting your ideas, it's about connecting to different things. And that might be, so networking is commonly used for kind of getting a new job and new job opportunities, but that's just about expanding and kind of finding out about those jobs and finding out what's there. It's about finding out about new things. So that's really, for me, what networking is about. It's about expanding your horizons and connecting with people and creating relationships, and that's the benefits that come from it. And the thing is that you don't always know what those benefits are going to be, the bigger benefits. So through networking, and let me come up with an example here. So I used to play football. I used to play women's football. And through me going along to play football, I met someone who was also a coach. And we got chatting almost straight away. We just connected. Now, I didn't go along to football to network, but what happened was, as a result of that, we clicked and we started sharing ideas. And we've remained friends for a long time. And we've collaborated on things, and we've kind of bounced ideas, and we've gone along to training together. And all of these things have happened. And that's just as a result of making that connection, forming a friendship. And that's part of the benefits of networking. Lifelong friends can emerge from this that you didn't anticipate. Lifelong collaborators can emerge, but that you shouldn't necessarily go out with the intention of creating that. And so it's really going out there and thinking about, how can I expand what I know? How can I expand my connections? How can I expand and grow as a result of meeting new people? And for me, that's what networking is all about. One of the things it's not about, that I really wanted to share, is that it's not about numbers. Network is not about a popularity contest, trying to tick the boxes to get as many people in your connections list as possible. That's kind of a popularity boost, and it doesn't really do you much good. So the biggest thing I always share when I'm talking about networking is the fact that it's about quality, not quantity. It's about forming relationships and building those relationships, not about collecting the business cards or collecting the LinkedIn connection numbers. The network that you build at a foundation should be a network of people that you're starting to get to know, and that you understand, and that you want to kind of to connect with and build a relationship with. So now, let me start to share you some tips, and I'm going to break this down into 3 areas. One is the before the networking event, before the networking in the first place. What do you do? What do you think about? What's your purpose around the networking that you're going to do? Then I'm going to talk a bit about, okay, once you get there, and there being in a group or it can be online, whatever it is, but how do you introduce yourself? How do you kind of ask those questions, and how do you get that conversation flowing? And then the third bit is going to be about, well, what happens afterwards? How do you follow up? How do you leave the conversation as well? And then how do you follow up? And so that's the kind of format that I'm going to follow in what I share. So starting with the before. And I know I talk about this quite a lot, but it's that the going into something, it's so important to kind of know why you're doing it. What is it that you want to get out of this? What's the purpose of you doing this networking? So if you're going along to an event, there's a clue in that event. Usually there's the kind of, why are people going along? So if you took this event as an example, we're sharing networking tips. So you'd probably be coming to this event to grow your network and to connect with people, but you may also use it as a chance to pick up some ideas. So that gives you a clue for the sorts of things that people might be wanting to talk about when you're there. There are going to be people there who are also wanting to pick up ideas, and who probably have some ideas to share back with you. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what sort of connections you might make and the sort of conversation you might have. If you're going along to a conference or a specific kind of like we run I'm involved in a Women in Tech York networking event, there's usually a topic that they have, a presentation that they have, and that will give you a clue for the sorts of conversations that might come up. So if you're interested in that particular topic, that might give you a clue for what sort of things you might want to talk about. So that's some ideas of a kind of why you might be going along. But then there's other bigger ideas. You might have a connection with your mission. You might have kind of taken the time out, and I talk about connecting with your mission quite a lot, and I've shared a few kind of ideas around that in other videos. So if you've connected with your mission, what's important to you, you might kind of use the networking opportunities, a chance to go out and do some research about what people think about your mission, about what's important to them, so that you can explain it to them, so that you can get some new ideas about how you might develop it. All of these sorts of things start to come up. So that's a couple of ideas that might feed in. The other thing that you might want to think about is kind of, if you've got a project that's going on for you right now, what are your kind of the things that are going on for you at work? What might it help you to get some input into that other people might bring a new perspective on? Starting to think about how you might take that and use that networking, use the people that are going to be at that networking event to get some ideas to feed into that. That can be a really helpful way of just thinking about, well, what do I want to get out of it? Why am I going there? And what would I hoped for from it? Now, as I said, you don't necessarily always get what you hope for. You might get something even better, and you might end up kind of doing discovering something that you've not even thought about. But going along with that purpose gives you a starting point and gives you a conversation starter with people. Off the back of that, one of the things that then can be really useful is to just think of some questions that you'd like answers to. So ideas of kind of the sorts of things that you might ideally come away with, the answers to the questions you might ideally come away with. So if, let me take me as an example, and in my particular situation. So having my own business, working as a coach, working and helping to develop tech leaders, I'm always interested in what are the challenges that leaders have in tech? What is it that they find kind of difficult, especially about showing up authentically? But so my big question, the question that I want to know the answer to, and I'd love to ask people quite often, is, well, what stops you showing up authentically at work? What stops you showing up authentically in your life? But if I was to show up and we just met for the first time and I asked you that question, you'd probably be a bit kind of nervous about sharing that with me straight away. So what I tend to have is that big question, and then I have the other question, some other questions beneath it. So I'll think about, well, what's the event that I'm going to, and what sort of things might people be going, who are the people that might be there, and how can I start to open up that conversation? So I can just sort of ask, well, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What is it that you enjoy about your work? And what are the challenges you face? And suddenly what starts to happen is I start to get to know the person and start to hear things, and I can dig a bit deeper into what it is. Before I know it, I've got a conversation started. Or sometimes they're not that bothered about talking about this stuff. So I leave it and I go away and I can have a conversation with someone else. And that's another big thing in this, is that the people that you speak to, not all of them are going to be the ones that you click with or have the answers for you. So it's about kind of just being confident enough to sort of say, okay, that's interesting chatting to you. Now I'll leave it for that. But the point here is that before you go in and network and go in and meet people, having a connection with, well, what are my projects at the moment? What would I really like to know about? What are my big questions? How would I take that and use this opportunity to develop those a bit further? So that's the kind of the before of the event. And if I was running this as a workshop, what I'd now encourage you to do is just to kind of go away and note a few of those down. So if some ideas are coming to you as I'm talking, do kind of make a note of them. But I off the back of this, I'd encourage you to go away and make a note of it, and just have a think about, okay, well, what are the things that I want to know about for me right now, and how could I kind of use the network that I have, not just the events that I go to, but this group, anything like that. How can I use that to explore them? So you've thought about why you want to go there. You've turned up with some of your questions, and then you're there. And you're there and you're talking to someone. Someone appears and you're given that kind of person. It's time to introduce yourself. How do you introduce yourself? And this is where I think it's very useful to it's almost a before as well, but just thinking about, well, how would you introduce yourself when someone asks? And the typical thing that we do is we kind of say, and let me give you an example. Hi, I'm Emma, I'm a coach. So you say what it is that you do. Now, what that does is that people kind of go, oh, right. And then they've got nothing, if they don't understand what a coach is or a coach does, they kind of don't really know what to follow it up with. And it can be a stopping point for a conversation. Same with, as I used to introduce myself when I was a graduate and when I was a software engineer. Hi, I'm Emma Cowling. I'm a software engineer. Right. Okay. So what does that mean? And if I'm with someone who's good at kind of having conversations, they'd probably go, all right, okay, what do you do with that? But what I'd like to kind of introduce you to is the idea that you might want to change your introduction to give them a bit more of a bit more information about what it is that you do. So as an example, let me go back to that time when I was a software engineer. What was I doing, and what is it that was interesting about what I was doing, that relevant for that audience that I was talking to? So let's imagine I was going to a tech event. So what I was doing was I was working on image processing software. So my introduction would actually be a bit more interesting if I said, hi, I'm Emma, and I developed tech which analyzes video software, which helps security guards to detect abnormal behavior in video. So that kind of gives you a bit more, okay, that's interesting. So what is it how does that work? What is it that you actually do within that? And all sorts of questions start to come from that give that person an in to explore what it is that you really do and to find out more about it. Or what do you enjoy about that? What are your challenges around that? What is it? How did you get into that? How on earth is that's a job that you ended up doing? So it's about kind of expanding that introduction to just talk a bit more about what it is you do, how you help people, how you work with people, and explain the impact that you want to have. So let me give you another example. So I used to be a manager, and so I would introduce, if my introduction was, hi, I'm Emma, and I'm the Sensor Systems Technology Center Manager. Now, does that tell you very much? It tells you a bit about that I'm a manager and it's something to do with sensors, but probably by the time I've finished saying it, you've kind of lost track of what it is and kind of gone, what? Yeah. So instead, my introduction might be, hi, I'm Emma, and I manage a group of 30 engineers who work on tech around image processing, acoustics and radar, and I work with them to help them to come up with new ideas and develop new research in that area. Now I'm coming up with that on the cuff a little bit, but that's the sort of thing that it gives you a little bit more of, oh, so suddenly it tells you, I manage 30 people. That's interesting. So if you're a manager, you might kind of, then it gives you an interesting conversation around, oh, how do you work with that number of people? How do you manage them? Then, or I mentioned that I work with different sensors, so image processing, vision, radar. So that could give you a bit more of a techie discussion to talk about, well, why do you do that? What's that interesting? What's interesting about that to you? So I hope you can see how that starts to open up the conversation. And my current thing in what I do, instead of introducing myself as a coach, what I'd say is I'm Emma, and I work with leaders in tech to help them to show up more authentically. And suddenly it's okay, so how do you do that? Well, I'm a coach. And so giving you a way of who I work with as a start lets me then explain how I work with people. I coach them and I help them develop them and I support them and I mentor them in order to make that happen. And it helps people understand a bit more what you're doing. So I feel like I've talked about this for a little while, but I think this is really useful to step back. And again, if I was now running a workshop, I'd be encouraging you to step back and just think about how you might describe what you do. And then the next bit beyond that is saying, and what do you enjoy about it, or what's important about it for you? What is it that encourages you to connect with that and get stuck into it? And that for me is kind of that next level of giving something authentic away, giving something about yourself away. So if I go back to the technology center manager, the sensors side of things, what do I love about it? I love getting people working together. So that might be something I share. I love getting people from different disciplines working together. So that takes you along one kind of conversation thread. Or I love, I can see that the future might be in getting different sensor technology, getting different information from different sensor technology and fusing it together. So I'm really intrigued about where the tech's going with there. So if I was at a techie conference, then I'd probably share that part about me and why I did it. So what we're doing is we're just, in our introduction, giving people a little bit more information about ourselves that helps them to kind of say, oh, okay, that's what you do, and start to ask questions. And hopefully, this also gives you an idea of the sorts of questions you might then ask them. So, what is it that you would say to them when they do an introduction, say, hi, I'm a software engineer? Okay, well, what do you do? How do you help people? How does that kind of feed into what you enjoy? So, these questions that I've just asked you to develop that, you can ask them too. So that's the intro. And hopefully, off the back of that intro, that then leads into the sorts of questions that you might ask. So, what is it that you want to, the questions, the big question that you've got, it starts the conversation going and allows you to kind of explore the other person's interest and start to introduce those questions that you want to ask. And if you don't, then if it doesn't naturally emerge, then one of the things you might do is just kind of, if the conversation breaks, just kind of saying, do you know what? I'm doing a research project and I'd really like to ask you a question. And then you just ask that big question and see what they think, see what they come up with. And they might come up with something and they might just go, oh, I'm going to have to go away and think about that. And that gives you an interesting bit to go away with. So what I'm hoping that you're taking from this is just the idea that actually it's okay to show up as you, and to show up and have a conversation as you, and that's an important part of it. But doing a little bit of prep beforehand, just think about what do I want to get from it, and how do I want to show up, and how can I help people see who I am. That's really kind of a big part of that showing up. And again, I'm talking about this as if we're going to a networking event, but in this group, I often ask for introductions, as I've said, or I ask questions and I share things. You are welcome to post in this group and share something that you have a question on. You are welcome to post, I'd like to know about this. I'm doing a research project about this. And that gives the people in the group more information about you and allows them to connect and share. But the final thing that I wanted to share is just kind of that ending the conversation. So at the end of the conversation, you thank them for their time and say, thank you very much. Really great speaking to you. And if there's a follow-up that you'd like to take, then talk about it. If there's something that they've said that they'll share with you or they've asked you for, then agree what you're going to do. You might want to ask them for their contact details, and particularly if you want to follow up with them, make sure you get their contact details. Don't give them a card or give them your contact details and say contact me. If you feel like you would like a follow-up, then you need to take the action to do that follow-up. So you need their contact details. So take their contact details. It might be just connecting on LinkedIn. Then as you go, it's useful to make a note of, well, what is it that you got from that conversation? So when I've been physically there and they've given me a business card, I tend to scribble on a business card so that I remember just a couple of notes, so that I remember who this person was, what they shared with me, so that I can come back to it at a later date and go through it and do the follow-up. If this is online, then just making a note in a text app or something like that, just making a note of, I need to follow up and it's around this topic, and trying to do that immediately if you can, but sometimes before you know it, you're into something else. So it's just trying to remember how you were going to follow up. And then follow up as soon as possible afterwards, because especially if it's important to you that a follow-up happens, then doing it as soon as possible means that they remember you, and hopefully that you catch them before they get sucked into the day-to-day life that kind of follows the event. Follow up, how you do it could be email, could be message. You hopefully will have agreed that. And the main thing that I'd also say in this is, don't expect them to respond. And probably expect them not to respond in many cases. You've had a one-to-one conversation quite quickly. It doesn't always mean that they've connected with you and you've connected with them. And so if they don't respond, don't take it personally. Do feel free to follow it up. Give it a few days, follow it up, and just sort of say, hi, I just wondered if you kind of are interested in taking this further, or whatever it is that you've asked to share. But if they don't come back to you, know that the majority of people have got a full inbox, and that email just does tend to disappear, and they're juggling lots of things. So the thing that can be useful, if this is a connection that you feel you would like to develop and that you feel could be useful and that you feel you turn into something, the thing that can be useful is just noticing and looking out for things that you can use to nudge them, which would be helpful for them. So, for example, things that I use are, if I come across someone else who I think, based on what they've shared with me, could be useful for them, I will do an introduction. That's a way of me just kind of getting benefit for my network and adding value to my network and encouraging them to connect, but for me to be in the loop and for them to remember that I'm a useful person to be in touch with. Another thing you can do is you might see an article or something relating to whatever you talked about with that person, just dropping them an email and saying, hi, how are you doing? Saw this, thought about our conversation, and just leaving it at that and showing that you're a useful person. And that just keeps you in their memory. Now, of course, you can't do this for loads of people. So this is for the people that you feel are worth nurturing, that you would like to keep on connecting with. Maybe it's someone who you'd like a job from, or you'd like to work with, or you just want to nurture that and develop it. Whatever it is, it's just a useful thing to bear in mind. But if you never get an answer, don't take it personally. This isn't against you. This is just that they are busy and they're not the connection that you need right now. Move on to the next person. Keep on networking. There are plenty of other people out there. So networking, it takes time. This is about building relationships. It's about continually reconnecting with people. It's about building and kind of staying in a network of people that are going to help you, and that you can help, about creating a support environment for yourself. And hopefully through what I've shared, through that idea, this is giving you a little bit more confidence about showing up and about just getting out there. The biggest thing actually that I really should have shared at the start, and that I think is really helpful to realize, is knowing that pretty much everyone gets nervous about networking at some stage. And that idea of showing up, whether you're extrovert or introvert, showing up and having a conversation with a stranger, that is nerve-wracking. So know that they're as nervous as you are. Know that some of their behavior that's coming through that might not feel very welcoming or very friendly is probably as a result of their nerves rather than them being unfriendly. And just know that knowing that everyone is nervous just puts you in a position where actually you feel less of an imposter. You feel less like you have to kind of prove yourself and stand out. You can just show up as you, and the more calm and collected you are, the better you are likely to be at connecting with these people and listening to these people. So I hope you found that useful. Now, as I said at the beginning, this is a masterclass that was filmed as part of a series within my Authentic Tech Leaders Facebook group. Now, if you'd like to join us, then we always welcome new members, and that will give you the chance to come out along and test out some of the ideas that I've been sharing here. It's another opportunity for you to network, for you to connect with other people, and to do it in a safe way where other people are doing the same thing. So if you'd like to come and join us, I also run other sets of events. I do a stories to inspire. I'm setting up at the moment some coaching support as well. So if you'd like to come and get some to develop yourself and just develop your learning and your authenticity and your leadership skills, then please do come over. You can find it by searching for Authentic Tech Leaders with Emma Cowling on Facebook, or by clicking the link in the comments below. So I hope to see you in there, and I hope that you take some inspiration from what I've shared, and that you've discovered some new ideas and some new approaches, and I hope you have a fantastic day.